Hi dear students, in the last class we had seen that the Alexander the Great, he attacked India and he defeated India. Then after the battle he went to see the countryside. Then he found that women and children, they were crying and weeping, but he did not have any sympathy on them. And then he turned towards the jungles and he found some sannyasis or the saints, Indian saints performing yajnas. So he wanted to see what is happening there. And in today's class, we will see what happens there. Take page number 111. It was a winter time, the wind was blowing and it was extremely cold. The saints wore no clothing on the upper parts of their bodies. Alexander said to himself, "Oh, they are poor and they do not have anything to cover their bodies." So Alexander, he was watching what is going on there and he found that the Indian saints, they were performing yajnas and it was a winter time. It was extremely cold and the climate was very cold and the saints, they wore no clothing on their upper parts of the body. So there is no clothing on the upper part of the Indian saints and you just imagine the climate. It was very cold, extremely cold. But the Indian saints, they were performing yajnas without having any cloth on their upper bodies. Then what Alexander the Great felt? He felt that, oh, they are poor and they do not have anything to cover their bodies. He thought that these Indian saints, they are very poor. That is the reason they do not have any clothing on the upper part of the body. So here what we can find, the climate is very extremely cold and the Indian saints, they were not having any clothing on their upper part of the body. When Alexander the Great saw them, then he felt that these Indian saints, they are very poor. That is why they do not have any clothing on their upper part of the body. And he felt sorry for the saints. He felt sympathy for the saints. Earlier we had seen that when he found the women and the children crying, they did not have any sympathy. But here he felt sympathy for the saint. Then he said to himself, I must do something for these naked fakirs. It was night already. He went back to his tent, woke up his chief general and said, bring thick woolen blankets and woolen clothes immediately. I need them urgently. So when he found that the fakirs or the saints, the Indian saints, they were without dress, then Alexander the Great, he thought that he must do something for the poor Indian saints. So he went back to the tent and he ordered to his generals, bring thick woolen blankets and woolen clothes immediately and I need them urgently. So he ordered his generals to bring some woolen clothes and blankets. Then heaps of thick blankets and woolen clothes were brought. When Alexander the Great ordered all these things, then the generals brought all the woolen blankets, the thick blankets and the woolen clothes brought by the generals. Heaps of thick blankets. What is the meaning of heap? Heaps means lot of. So the generals brought lot of thick blankets and woolen clothes. In no time, they were loaded on horses and Alexander himself led them, riding back to the jungle. So the things that they brought, they just loaded on the vehicles and then they went to the jungle. The caravan stopped where the saints were performing yajna. Alexander found the saints were still busy chanting hymns. The word caravan means group of people traveling with vehicles and animals and other goods. And they travel together. So the caravan. And we know that it is a caravan because Alexander the Great is there, then his generals, his army and the animals and the goods. So the caravan stopped where the saints were performing yajna. And then Alexander found that these Indian saints, they were chanting hymns or some kind of praise. He moved his horse closer, but the saints took no notice of the presence of Alexander and his caravan. He reached near to the Indian saints and the place where the Indian saints performing yajna, but these Indian saints, they did not notice Alexander and they were not aware about the presence of Alexander, and they did not notice Alexander. In order to get their attention, Alexander pat his horse and coughed. Still no one paid any attention. When Alexander found that no one was aware about his presence, then he just patted his horse. That means he just stopped on his horse and made the sound. Then he found. Then also no one noticed the presence of Alexander. Then Alexander got irritated now. He dismounted and proceeded towards the oldest saint. The saint did not notice, and Alexander felt totally ignored. Then he approached one of the saints and called, "Fakir, listen, I am the famous Alexander the Great." Then what Alexander did, when he found that no one is noticing the presence of Alexander and his generals, then he just dismounted and proceeded towards the oldest saint. Dismounted means climbed down from the horse. Then he just went near to the oldest saint. But the saint did not notice Alexander, and Alexander felt totally ignored. When Alexander felt that no one is noticing about his presence, then he felt that he is totally ignored and he got irritated. And then he approached one of the saints and called, "Fakir, listen, I am the famous Alexander the Great." So since no one is noticing, he just called one of the saints and said that, "I am the famous Alexander the Great." Then the saint looked up and asked coolly and very sweetly, "What do you want, young man? What can I do for you?" So the saint asked Alexander the Great, "What do you want from us and what we can do for you?" Alexander was taken aback with the question. He paused. Well, I don't want anything from you. I am Alexander the Great. I have conquered your Hindustan," Alexander announced proudly. He continued, "When I saw you people naked in this cold weather, I brought woolen blankets and clothes for all of you." So when the saint asked that, "What do you want from us and what can I do for you?" then Alexander was totally surprised. Taken back means surprised. Why? Because Alexander was there to do something for the saints. Then the saints, they are asking them, "What do you want from us? What can I do for you?" So he was totally surprised. So then he explains, "I don't want anything from you. I am Alexander the Great and I have conquered your Hindustan. I have conquered your India." And he announced that very proudly. And then he continued that, "I am here to give some clothes to you. When I found that you were naked in the cold weather, then I thought of giving some woolen clothes to you. That is the reason I am here, and I do not want anything, but I am here to give something for you." The saint threw a sharp glance at Alexander. He came closer and put his hands on Alexander's shoulder. When Alexander said that, "I do not want anything from you, I just conquered. I am Alexander the Great. I conquered India and I am here to give some woolen clothes to you." Then the saint looked Alexander the Great very sharply. Sharp glance means sharp look. And then he just went near to the Alexander the Great and put his hand on Alexander's shoulder. And then he said, "Young man, so you are the famous Alexander who conquers countries by robbing them." So the saint went near to Alexander and said that, "So you are the famous Alexander and you conquer the world by robbing them or stealing the wealth of other countries." In a way, the saint said that Alexander the Great, he is a thief. And he said that you just conquer the world by robbing or stealing them. The saint gave a loud laugh and asked, "Tell me, my child, how can a robber be a conqueror and a giver?" Saying this, the saint looked deep into Alexander's eyes. So here the saint makes a general truth about the life. The saint first said to Alexander the Great that you are a robber or you are a thief. and you steal the things from other countries. You conquer the countries and you conquer the countries by stealing the wealth of other countries. Then I want to ask you one question. My child, how can a robber be a conqueror and a giver? So first he said that you are a robber and you are a thief. And how can a robber or a thief can become a conqueror and a giver? So the robber or the thief, they do not give anything to other people. They just conquer wealth to himself. He just accumulate wealth for himself only, and he won't give anything for other people. That is why the saint says, how can a robber can take and give at the same time itself? Conquer, what is the meaning of conquer? Take control of other people and other country by using force. So in a way, saint says that how can a robber be a taker and a giver? So only one at a time. The robber cannot be a conqueror and a giver at a time. Here the saint, he calls Alexander the Great as a thief or a robber. And he asks one question here to Alexander the Great, that how can a robber be a conqueror and a giver? Conqueror means take something by force. Take control over countries and people by force. And he asks one question here, general question, how can a robber be a taker and a giver at the same time? Robber only takes things by using power, and it is not possible for a robber to become taker and a giver at the same time, or a conqueror and a giver at the same time. Saying this, the saint looked deep into Alexander's eyes. So he just said one general truth about life, and then he looked deep into the eyes of Alexander the Great. And today we had seen that Alexander the Great, he found that these saints, they were sitting half naked in the extreme cold. Then he felt sorry about the saint, so he brought some clothes for the saints. But the saints, they did not pay any attention towards Alexander the Great. So then he approached the saints, and the saints asked him, what can I do for you? Then Alexander the Great said he is not there to get anything from the Indian saints, but he is there to give something for you. Then the saint, he calls Alexander the Great as a robber because he conquered the world by robbing other countries. And he says one general truth to Alexander. How can a robber be a conqueror and a giver at the same time? So I hope that you understood what we discussed today, and in the next class we will discuss the rest of the story. Thank you. Have a nice day.